we have editor here. So 2 editors with praxis. What would you recommend to the young designer who really wants to get some success on the international basis? Where to start? To whom he should or she should address?
I mean, yeah, we can do like I think we're 2 very different magazines, because mine is like, I work very commercial. I did like the more commercial one. So basically what I do, one main mistake is don't DM me. don't send me a Facebook message. Don't be very direct, like we party together, which is like, it's great, it's all fine, but every magazine has a submission or contribution email. Go to their website. Also the biggest one, because this is how you find talent. I don't have time to scoop and look through everything, but what we do, we have submissions, we have contributions. Either me as an editor, I had an assistant who was going through all the submissions. She knew my style, she knew what applies to the magazine. Also, like, put your ego aside, and if you know your content is not good for a certain magazine, don't just send it there, because no one's gonna, like, know your audience very, very well, know the magazines that apply to your style very, very well, send them an email, and that's fine, because that's what I did also as a writer. I knew my way. I never send an email to New York Times, because I know they're not going to publish my writing, but I did it to ID, and that's then confused, because I knew my audience. And I think you guys can do the same. Just like pick your battles, pick the magazines, submission, contribution, work for free, give them everything they want, give them the exclusives, and that's it.
Gili, what's your recipe?
We work a bit differently. As you said, we're very different magazines. The best way to get my attention is to feature your designs during Fashion Week. You can talk to the team here, even if it's relatively small, but I will come and see the collections, and I will choose my favorite, and I already contact the designers that I would like to work with. Yes, DM me, it's fine. You can email me as well. I will not answer right away. And if I don't answer after 2 weeks, message me again. Eventually, I will find the time to answer, say yes, yes, no, no, but it's a good way to reach me personally. The third way that is really good is to get a representation, get a PR that will represent you. They can email me, they will do the work for you. Find somebody that works with international media if that's where you want to go to, and the PR will do the work for you.
Okay, thank you. I had to write down a lot of notes during your presentation, so I'm a bit confused in between them, but several times during this day we've heard this lineup, designer, agency, media. So, agency is something that is necessary in between designer and media world or not, and in what ways agencies can help designers without a lot of money, of course, which young designers doesn't have.
Just one more. Designers are very creative, but they're not business thinking. PR, though, yeah.
Not necessary. I mean, there are so many, basically in Eastern Europe, the designers don't have this mentality that, like, Katya wants to show up, I want to show. They don't have that kind of mentality. So the designer can also approach directly the magazine to go abroad. That is that the agency, like my agency is only for that kind of designer that they don't know that is also that part in fashion.
And can I add here, I think agency is very important, the designer, more so to have a showroom, so your designs can be somewhere and stylists can get them for editorials and for celebrities and influencers. Whatsoever for press, just don't be lazy, you can do it yourself. But the main thing as an agency, and I think what you can gain like from it is get your stuff out there. Like get yourself be seen live, not just read in like news article or something. I think this is very important, and you have to know the balance and the barriers between them.
The last thing, like many PR agencies, I know I don't want to, but there are so many PR agencies that they don't hire properly specific person for the brand, for example. I met a lot of PR agencies in Paris, for example. Like one of my favorites is Ritual Projects, like PR agency. But there are so many other agencies that they don't hire a specific stylist or a specific art direction or a set designer for the static presentations. And I think it's very important the agencies should hire a properly team for the brand. This is very important because most of the PR I do it by myself. I hire maybe, I don't know, my French stylist or whatever, which is not okay. I think should be done a strategy in base of the brand and in base of everything.
Okay, now let's go to another theme. Image is an article. It provides instant understanding, but there should be more to it than just image, flat one or...
Well, when you actually look at the statistics of how people consume content, so on Instagram, I think the answer now is 1.7 seconds per post. And the reality is, if when you look at 1.7 seconds per post, they're probably not going to read a full caption in 1.7 seconds. They're going to see the image. And if they're interested, if they're hooked by the image, then they're going to want to see more. I mean, our world is the world of image. So what we try to do is not take away the power of words, because words are important, but see words as a sort of a secondary step to be able to connect with someone. The primary step will always be image in fashion, because it is fashion. And you know, as you were talking about the New York Times will not lay out a fashion story in the same way that they would lay out a piece of investigative journalism on a war field. And that's, thank God for that. Like we should be following how people are willing to consume content. And I think that's the real shift, is that there's without any offense to the brilliant editors here, but it's not up to just the editor to say, I want you to see this, ergo, I'm going to put it out there, and this is you know, the word of God. I think it's the tables have turned a little bit, and it's important to keep the other side in mind, because they are the ones doing the choosing.
Mm-hmm. Can I just add here, 100% sure, and also the main thing is, if I see I can manipulate you, I don't want to publish you because you don't have your own identity. Yes, we can, like, meet me halfway. It's just like, that's the thing. In the end, yeah, we're going to publish you, but if you don't stand your ground, if you don't have your identity, doesn't matter who you are. Like, I'm gonna meet you halfway as well. So it's just like they have to do, yeah.
I would point out another thing, because in social media, there is no, let's say, no responsibility. Everyone can publish whatever he or she wants, whatever content. But on the contrary, in the magazines, there is responsibility. You as an editor have certain responsibility towards designers and the public readers.
I mean, and also towards, you know, I don't want to talk about money and politics, but it also goes towards that, because this is where I get the money, so my responsibility is there as well. And also, if inclusion is on trend, and if I know where I'm going to get the money and what the appeal is going to be, want it or not, you have to put it in, because you have to play the game right.
Yeah. So who are these really influential people? Because obviously they are not Instagram influencers.
Well, they're not. Yeah. No, they are the one that actually have maybe 1,000 followers on there, where they have like Finsta accounts and they just like check on Rome on everyone. I think, like she said, like people like Robin, who is behind Ritual Projects. No one knows who Robin is. There is stylists behind people like Nicolas Ghesquiere, stylists behind Jeezy, stylists behind, or consultants behind any other brand. Those are the people. Because you as a designer, or you as a lead in whatever project you are, as an editor or a writer, whatever you are as a photographer, you have your own vision and you cannot be objective in any sort of way. So you're very subjective, you have your own opinion in your way. So the people that are behind you come with a different eye and still understand your vision and are part of your world, because if they're not, the content is not going to be good. So the people behind that person, that is the face, and that's the one that's on internet, those are really important. And those are like thousands of them, and they're brilliant and they're great.
Katrina, what is your experience with media? I don't mean just Instagram, Facebook, and all this social media, but with magazines, editors, TV shows, or things like that with your project.
Sorry, what do you mean by experience exactly?
Well, how do you cooperate with them? how do you approach media?
Well,
what tactics do you use to get attention?
Well, we're not really an agency, but we do have a media partner in Berlin. That's Kaltblut magazine. They're completely independent, so we sort of work very well together. They're also a lot about genderless fashion and independent concepts in general. So we put on different events together, but we don't have any money flowing, basically. So if we have a brand that they think is cool, then they'll feature that, but there's no tie on that, or what do you say? Like there's no obligation. Otherwise, I mean, we're an open space, so we have different stylists coming in, working on projects. The way we work is that we don't agree to shootings, but the stylists or editors, they contact the brands directly. They can do that through us, and then they propose to the brands what they'd like to do, and then the brands agree to that. So, and then the stylists can borrow the items in our shop. So that's how we work, basically.
Thank you.
If that answers your question.
Okay, we will stay in the field of media because this is our topic today at this moment. Yes, please.
Can I just to interject on the topic that I see coming up a lot, and that's independence. So I think you've all used it in one context or another. What's so interesting about independence, and there was a real period when everyone wanted to belong desperately to big groups and conglomerates, and that was the idea. We need to get signed, we need to get the backing, and then everything will turn out okay. And what I'd like to say is that actually we're coming from very different fields. So I'm probably, very far away from what you all would consider to be independent, but we are independent. So there's there's a large scale of independence. And I think what's really interesting about this moment in time is that there's a real need for it. So rather than trying so desperately to belong to something that will not necessarily work for your business model or for your system, I think being fiercely independent and having sort of the courage to stand up for that fierceful independence is more important. And you can be independent as Chanel and you can be independent as a smaller brand, but independence, I think, is really a key word.
It sounds very fine, very nice, really great, but I would like a definition of this independence with this codependent world where we can't do without all these tools which we are involved with and live on daily basis. So what exactly is this independence? Because I'm not cynical. I sincerely would like to know how to be independent.
I'm just going to answer this one really briefly on my end, and then I'll pass the word along. But for me, actually, independence is also saying, no, we don't actually need to have a conversation about everyone working abroad and leaving Slovenia. You can be independent in your own way, but luckily you live in a world where platforms are global. So your message can be independent, fiercely local, but it can have wider outreach. So I just think that we all see independence as a struggle. And there's beauty in independence that comes from embracing that it doesn't have to be a struggle.
Okay, maybe,
I agree with that completely, but also, like, independence comes from experience. I gained my independence when I had a list of 30 names and magazines and famous people. This is where my independence came in. Like this, I worked for my independence right now, and now I have it in this position, but I didn't have it for 10 years. I was writing about stuff I was not interested. I was working on stuff that I didn't care, but I need to pay my bills. And once I proved my point, I proved my condition where I stand now in media or in the social aspect that I'm in, here my independence comes in. I didn't have it for years and years and years, and it's fine, but just don't stop. Like, you can get it, you can get there, but you have to earn it. It's just not gonna drop from somewhere.
I believe Gili has a similar story. You've told us something about it in your presentation.
For me, independence means that I don't own. Nobody owns me. I don't owe anyone I don't owe anything to anyone. I was invited here by Ljubljana Fashion Week. I don't have to provide them coverage. I don't have to. They don't tell me you have to do this. You have to choose that. You have to feature this. I do what I want. I can do one page that is black, just nothing on it, and say, this is Ljubljana Fashion Week, if this is what I choose. When you're not independent, is somebody pays you to feature certain content. For me, I have the pleasure to choose my advertisers, to choose who I want to work with, and that makes me not the richest woman in most places I go, but I don't care. Then this is what I think independence really is, not caring so much about where your next paycheck is coming from, and the freedom to do whatever you want with it.
Be yourself, be original, be authentic. These are the key words to everyone who is trying to get his way into the field of fashion, or for that matter in any other creative industry. But what does it really mean? What does it mean for you, for each one of you? What is this? Where do you seek for this originality? What appeals to you? When do you say, wow, this is really something?
No, I just think it's so interesting, this question, and I think it's so interesting to talk about it with all of you. For me, probably the notion of authenticity and independence is that, for me, the independence comes in from working for a house, a beautiful Parisian house that has the means for us to express our point of view. So I think probably that to me is luxury, and that to me is my independence. So my independence doesn't come from saying, you know, I can go wherever I want in the world and talk whatever I want about the brand that I work for. That's not the independence I necessarily have or would want, because there are certain things that are just beautiful, that are beautiful when you say, okay, my independence actually is found within the system as well. You don't have to break the system in order to be independent. But and so the notion of authenticity comes, and when I talked a lot about responsibility, and this is really what I live every day, is to say we have a responsibility to our founders, to the incredible creative directors that came before. It's our responsibility not to screw it up. And so that's the responsibility that also comes with freedom, and that comes with independence, that comes with saying we are actually in a privileged place to define the next chapter of the house's story.
Okay.
I'm just gonna bring this more to originality. And I think what we are all saying, and our originality comes from, we are all each individuals with our own personality, our own vibe, and this is what we bring to the house. So this is the originality I offer. My story, even if you take the same steps as I did, it's not going to be the same. If you take the same steps as he did, it's not going to be the same. So what you bring, and if you develop your whatever the hell you're developing, sorry for cursing in that way, but it's going to be different, and the house is going to take that. Like, he is at Chanel because he brings a certain aspect. Like, someone else does the same job as he does, but he's at a different house because the vibe is just not right. Let me say this. And this is the originality you bring, like the vibe to that thing, and then you just use your tools.
Okay. Myra?
Well, when I choose the brand that I work with, for me it's very important, first of all, the first feeling. You know, like it's about
personal
the energy.
Feeling or personal, human touch.
Yes.
Yes.
I think it's very, very important, the first feeling that you feel when you speak with the person. Sometimes when I find myself, because I have a cultural background, my father is Greek, my mom is Romanian, my grandmother was German, so I think I'm also very interested in brand that promotes more cultural diversity, and they have a cultural background, and really they have difficult challenges in their life as a person. I think originality comes to where are you come from, and to reflect this also as a brand. It's not the fancy stuff and everything. It's about yourself. Like, just to show, for me, being original, even as a brand, just to show yourself what you are as a person. And for example, I'm really interested in brands that, I was in Kazakhstan and I visited some fashion schools there. I'm very interested to visit these kind of countries where I try to understand how fashion system is working there, how the school provide the right information to their students. And I found a lot of talented designers, like young talents, like photographers, stylists as well, but they don't have the right information how to go abroad, how to go outside. But for me, it's not important just to go outside, but to make the difference in your country, with a different mentality in your country, like Katya, I think, is doing it. So.
Yeah, tying into the independence, like for what we're doing, we're giving designers independence and that they can be free in what they place in our shop. For example, I mean, we're talking about different things now, but they're also giving us independence. I mean, we're working for the brands, they're financing Studio 183, but we're also giving back to them. So it's a flow, it's human connection. I love it when brands are so happy to be there. They come from a Paris showroom, they're like, we're so happy to be able to work with you. Let's do another event together to get away from all of this madness. And yeah, it's all about human connection. And for us, yeah, it's human connection with the customers and then also with the brands. And it's the energy flow, sort of. And that's how we work. And that's how we can remain independent. I get the question over and over again, don't you want to look for an investor? And I'm like, but why? Like, we're growing organically, and I think that's a great way to work. And that's how we can stay free. And yeah.
Gili?
Yeah, for me, originality. As a photographer, if I look around and I see more than one photographer next to me, I walk away. All the photographers shoot this way, or there's the lineup of the models and everybody shoot around. I have to walk away because I know that everybody will have the same photos. If everybody doing big belts now, everybody's big belts in the end will look the same. Don't do big belts. Do something that somebody else don't see. Don't stand in a point where everybody else doing the same around you. That's for me originality.
Thank you. Well, we should end this talk now. I'm very sorry, but the time is running so fast that we are not aware of it. We could talk about it hours and hours, and we can do it later outside with coffee. I just wanted to make a sentence or two for the closure, and if you won't agree, you can have your separate opinion. But despite all of media, despite all of these communication channels that we have, personal touch, personal communication is the key to I won't say success, to make a good story, to tell your story.
Yeah, but good communication. You have to pick your words. Yeah, good communication. No, I mean, like she said, I agree with all that. That's very important. But you also have to know how to form your emails. You also have to know which words to use and how to approach it. And yeah.
I'm very happy that all of you, all 5 of you, are so happy in your line of work. And I wish you good luck in the future and many success and many, many good stories. Thank you.
Thank you.